I should just start the video with Brave Boy Jordan, drop the bass. What is up, super friends? Jake here with the Brave and the Boys, and we have another haul. I love these kind of videos, but I want to say one thing, okay? I got a lot of hate on Reddit. I mean, what do you know? On the internet, I got some haters. They said that I am perpetuating FOMO, I am being a bad influence, and I just want to say, don't haul like me. I do have a YouTube channel. I do have my sponsor, Organic Price Books. They take care of me. There, you can save $2 with the code Braveboys, or if you're buying 4 more books, save 5% with the code Braveboyssit. But they take care of me. I get damaged books. I buy used books. I'm always eBay bidding. So, you know, this is a wife-approved haul, believe it or not. So with all that being said, I want to show you the DC books I got, the absolutes, the indies, and show you what I've been reading, talk to you about what I've been loving. Let's dive in.
Deep within a bleak and dismal swamp, hidden beneath its murky waters, lies the headquarters of the most sinister villains of all time, the Legion of Doom.
Up first is going to be our smallest section, because you guys know I'm a DC guy. But we have our Marvel section. Now these were all gotten from Organic Price Books, so I want to say a huge thank you to them. Let's talk about why I got each one. So up first, we have the Death of Spider-Man. Now, I didn't know what I was getting into. I knew there was the debate of, do I get Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man 4 and 5, or do I get Death because it is an event Omni, or do you be crazy like I'm probably going to be and get 4, 5, and the Death of Spider-Man? But when I saw this cover, I didn't like the other cover very much, but when I saw this cover, it like broke my heart and I knew I had to get it. So I did decide to get this. Little bummed that I can't read this yet. So for those of you that don't know, you're going to want to read Ultimate Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3. Then you're going to want to read 4, which hasn't come out yet. And then you can read Death of Spider-Man, which is their event Omni. So I do have to wait for 4 to come out, but I've been loving the Ultimate Spider-Man series. I actually love a lot of the Ultimate series from Marvel, because what's cool about it is that I don't have a ton, like I don't have decades of Marvel history. I mean, Spider-Man, there's hundreds, you know, of Spider-Man comics. There's thousands of Spider-Man comics, and I'm never going to be able to read them all, but being able to read one little pocket universe is just awesome. Moving on from that, we have the next Miles Morales in the series. I haven't read any of the Miles Morales books yet, but I do love the movies. Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse are like my all-time favorite movies, but I'm trying to read them chronologically, and I need to finish Ultimate Spider-Man first. Up from that, we have Thunderbolts Red. I've been collecting Thunderbolts because I want to be a Thunderbolts expert before the movie comes out. And I have to say, I have not cracked open any of my Thunderbolts yet, but I did crack open Thunderbolts Red. What I love about Thunderbolts Red is it's all the red villains. So you have Agent Venom, the Red Hulk, Deadpool, Elektra, and it is just like, these are just stone cold killers that don't want to work together, and they have to work together to follow the command of Thunderbolt Ross, you know, and it's making me hyped for the next Captain America movie, because I've heard rumors that we're going to get a Red Hulk in there. So honestly, I didn't need any context for what I read so far. I just jumped into this volume right here, and I've been loving it. Moving on from that, we have Incredible Hulk. Now, I've heard from a lot of people and a lot of friends that this is the definitive Hulk run, so I'm super excited to read it. I know that they tie together a lot of mythos and stuff from various runs. The only Hulk I've read so far is Planet Hulk, and I absolutely loved it. If you want to watch a video of me talking about my top Marvel reads, you can watch that video here. But honestly, as intimidating as this magnificent beast of an Omni looks, I'm excited to dive in eventually. And then lastly, we have a book that I kind of got FOMO'd into. That was ROM. Now, I don't know anything about ROM, but it like broke the internet when Omar announced that they got the rights to ROM back and they were able to print it. And I didn't really know what to expect. And I've read about 2 issues so far. And he's kind of like an outsider, like a robot alien. And he's kind of just like on Earth. And I don't really know. I kind of get a vibe that like, I'm hoping it tackles on themes of like what makes us human and humanity, as Rom discovers like how to be a hero. But honestly, it's a little before the time of comics that I enjoy. Thinking it might be a little bit of a chore to get through, and I'm telling myself, and I promised my wife, I wouldn't buy any more volumes of Rom or Micronauts until I read a bit more of this one. So I will keep you all updated if I read Rom and let you know how it is. Let's move on to the next section. You guys saw it in the last haul video. I wanted to read Rick Remender, so what did I do? I bought like every Rick Remender book. And I did a similar thing with Ed Brubaker. Now, I've always known Ed Brubaker was fantastic, but what happened was I read the first volume of Captain America, and I was floored, and I was like, dude, okay, Brubaker is cooking. I gotta go all in, and I went all in. So up first, I want to show off some of my favorite ones. That's Criminal. Criminal is a multi-generational crime saga about family and loss and love and vengeance and revenge and greed, and basically every theme you can imagine in this fictional city, and it spans every generation, and the books are out of order, and there's like 10 of them to read, and I tore through all of them. So it's going to focus on a couple of characters. There's Teague Lawless, who is just a son of a bitch. There's, in the first book, there's the Coward, and then you get a bunch of other characters. There's Teague's son, Tracy, and you get to know this whole family, this whole community, and you get to learn the whole history of this town. What's cool is there's shifting protagonists and shifting perspectives, and it is like if Grand Theft Auto was an amazing comic book series, and it's incredible. The thing is, though, I actually read it backwards. So the first Criminal book I read was a gift from David from Organic Price Books. He gave me Cruel Summer, and I read Cruel Summer, which is the story of two young boys whose parents are kind of criminals, and it's about like the summer when they have to learn to grow up. And I loved it, and then I realized I had read book 9 in a series. So I had to go out and find the rest of them, and I tore through them. So Ed Brubaker's Criminal, amazing. Thought that was going to be my favorite thing that he made, and it wasn't. We move on to Reckless. Reckless is a love letter to 70s pulp comics, and it stars Ethan Reckless, a fixer who can fix any problem if you have a good enough reason, maybe a little bit of cash. It's a love letter to 70s California. So what's cool is like I got to see places mentioned that I've been to or I've lived near, and it just really hit home for me. And I love that the stories are so digestible. You can read them in any order, so you don't need to worry about chronological. You can read them in any order. It's meant to just grab one and you can just read it and tear through it. And what's cool is it's the perfect size to read in one sitting. So I tore through the Reckless books, and I do want to say that we are doing a Reckless book club in our Discord. So if you are members of the Brave and the Boys Discord, on the 6th, we are doing a Reckless book club. So if you want to join, just join the Discord, get a copy of Reckless. It's pretty cheap on Amazon, and you can read Reckless and join in the community chat with us. So I would love to have all of you there. Moving on from Reckless, we have Where the Body Was. I don't know anything about it. The cover looks cool, but at this point, after Criminal and Reckless and Sleeper, which I'll talk about soon, I'll buy anything Brubaker and Phillips does. I want all of the books. Moving on from that is a book that you, friends of the channel, pestered and bullied me into getting. I said I was fine with just Batman, Ego, and Other Tales, and everyone said, no, you need the Selena Omnibus, you need the Catwoman Omnibus, and I broke down and I bought it. Now, I'm not done with it yet. I did start it, and I absolutely loved it. The first book that was written and drawn by Darwin Cook, Selena's Big Score, was so fun to read because you can tell it wasn't even a Catwoman story. What I loved about Selena's Big Score is you got to see Darwin Cook write the book that he really wanted to be writing. He always wanted to do a Richard Stark Parker story, and he did that, so much so that the master thief in this book name was Stark. After that, there are some Brubaker stories drawn by Darwin Cook that I loved, and then Darwin did leave the series, and the stories afterwards were okay. It was excellent writing, but the art just felt like people doing their best Darwin Cook impersonation. Now, I know a little bit later in the Omni, the art radically changes, so maybe I'll like it more when I feel like the artist is doing their own thing as opposed to doing a cover, when I'd rather just see Darwin draw. Moving on from that is like something that skyrocketed to my favorite DC omnibus ever, and it's Gotham Central. Gotham Central is a book that focuses on characters I never really even thought about, and that is the police officers and the day and night shift of Gotham City. What I love about this book is it makes Batman's rogue gallery terrifying. Like, Mr. Freeze always kind of seems like a joke, but when you're just a regular cop with no superpowers and this guy can freeze you to death, that's frightening. And it's not just the rogues, it's Batman himself. He's a force of nature in this book, and you fall in love with the characters. There's love, there's loss, there's every emotion. It was written by Ed Brubaker and Greg Rucka. One of them wrote the night shift, one of them wrote the day shift. I forget who wrote what. And I loved it. I also loved the ending because I feel like it segues pretty gracefully into Infinite Crisis and 52, and I just like, I loved those stories, and now I have all this new context for it. And lastly, we have Sleeper. Sleeper is fantastic. As you guys know, I've recently been reading more of the Wildstorm universe this year, and Sleeper is up there with Planetary for my two favorite. Sleeper is the story. So I had a lot of people recommend Sleeper to me, and the first few issues, I was really confused. It followed a character named Grifter, who I didn't know because I've never read Wildcats. And there was a lot of like memory lapses, and like the timeline seemed weird. And then I realized that was just an intro story. It shifts to focus on the new protagonist, and that's when I fell in love with the book. It's an incredible self-contained story. There was twists and double crosses and triple crosses and quadruple crosses, and by the end of it, I was floored. It kept me on the edge of my seat, and I recommend Sleeper to each and every one of you. Now we move on to some other creator-owned or indie, whatever you want to call it. Just hopefully I didn't say it wrong and I get attacked in the comments. We have the Turtles Compendium 1 and 2. I snagged these from the damage section of Organic Price Books, so I got them for a killer deal, and I didn't realize they were black and white. Now, I know there's a lot of controversy around Volume 1. I guess it skips issue number 8 or something that a lot of people are unhappy about. I've never read a single Turtles comic other than the stuff from Usagi that I've read where they've made an appearance, and I'm excited to own a piece of what I call comic book history. Now we move on to Once and Future. Once and Future, I bought on a Whatnot auction from some guy who sold Legos. I don't even think he knew what he was selling. And a friend in the Discord said, Jake, you should get this. And when I heard the creator team, Kieran Gillian and Dan Mora on medieval horror, but in the modern day, I was like, I'm buying that because Dan Mora is amazing. Everything they draw is fantastic. And this book is gorgeous. It's like Dan Mora going full Dan Mora, and that you gotta fight skeletons and Beowulf, and it's a really fun story, and we're getting another deluxe edition this year, and I can't wait because I tore through Once and Future. Now we have my third attempt at collecting Invincible. I started with the softcover compendiums, then I sold those and bought the hardcover compendiums, but I'm the absolute guy. And what's a library edition if not an absolute from another publisher? So I am slowly, because I already have the hardcover compendiums, I'm slowly making my way through the library editions. There's a volume 3 out now, but I heard that it was smaller than volumes 1 and 2 and it doesn't line up, and that I should wait for volume 3. If there's truth behind that, let me know in the comments. But right now I have volumes 1 and 2. One of them's a little dinged up, but hey, we love a book with some character. Moving on from that, I'm on a little bit of an Alan Moore kick. You'll see a lot of that in the absolute section. But I bought From Hell, and I bought an edition that was paperback because I was trying to save money, and I opened it up and it's black and white again. And Jordan goes, oh, I would have got the master edition. And you know, I'm like, well, I own the book. You don't even own it. Why are you being snooty about a book you don't own? But I exchanged it. I returned it. I paid, I think it was like $5 more, and I got a beautiful hardcover in color, and I cannot wait to tear into it. Then we have the Ballad of Halo Jones. I went to start it, and oh my god, Alan Moore uses a lot of words in his comics. It is dense as hell, but it's supposed to be amazing, and I will read it this year for sure. On from that is a book I never even knew existed. But the other day, me and my wife went out to a couple comic book shops and a half-price books, and she found this trade paperback, and she goes, Archie, I love Archie. I never even knew, she's never mentioned Archie once in her life. And I'm like getting ready to laugh at her because Archie's kind of nerdy. I only really knew the cheesy CW show. And I look at the creator team, and it was Mark Waid and Fiona Staples. And I was like, what? And she was like, can I get it? And I was like, hold on, let me Google if there's a deluxe edition. There's not a deluxe edition. There's a varsity edition. Now, here's the heartbreaking news that I didn't know until after I bought volume 1, the first varsity edition. There is a second varsity edition, and enough content for a third varsity edition that also could have included the Chip Zdarsky Jughead stuff, but that never came out, so it is a incomplete run and will haunt me for the rest of my days. But that brings us to the end of the indie or creator-owned section. Let's move on to the DC section. The DC section, my bread and butter, what we're known for. Some awesome books that I was so excited for this month. So we have Death Metal, If you want to watch me do an overview on Organic Price Books channel on death metal, you can watch that here. But you guys know I love me some metal. I love me some Scott Snyder. And I'm so happy to finally have that omnibus. And that means we have a giveaway of the Death Metal Deluxe Edition. Go ahead and caption hashtag Robin King down below. You'll be entered to win the Deluxe Edition of Death Metal, which I cannot recommend more or less than the Omni. It's like the Omni, but less issues. Then we have 100 Bullets. Jordan's been telling me for so long how good 100 Bullets is, and I got it. And then I heard I got to get a second one. And I was like, okay, that's not that bad. Just one more Omni. And then I heard from everybody, that's not complete. And lo and behold, DC solicited the Brother Lobo or Brother Lono, whatever it's called, Deluxe Edition that will cap off the run. So I don't just have one Omni to look forward to. I have an Omni and a Deluxe that could have fit in the Omni. Yeah, so I'm excited to read it. I don't know anything about it. But what I do know about is Silver Age Superman. If you know our channel, I am the definitive voice on the Silver Age of comics. Just kidding. This is actually one of the only DC books I own that's pre-Crisis. But I told myself, you know what? I loved Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, which was kind of the swan song to the Silver Age Superman. So I said, how about I read about Silver Age Superman? Omnidog goes, you're not going to like it. You're not going to... And I go, that just made me want it even more. So luckily, my sugar daddy, David from OPB, sent this to me, and I read a couple issues. I don't like it. I'm sorry. The first issue is someone breaks in to Superman's Fortress of Solitude, and he knows his secret identity, and Superman's having nightmares and bad dreams. Who could it be? Who could it be? And it's Batman. He hid inside the giant key, and he pranked him, and it's like, it's just so silly. It's bananas. It's cuckoo. And I'm going to keep reading because Omnidog said I wouldn't finish it. So I'm going to finish it. Each day, one more dense issue down. Moving on from that, we have Emperor Joker. I don't know anything about this. I think the Joker rules the world or remakes the universe or something. Jordan says how much he loves it. So I got it just to rub it in his face that I had it and he didn't. And then we have The Kingdom. The Kingdom is one of the sequels to Kingdom Come, which is one of the best books of all time. So I guess Mark Waid made his sequel. And as you know, Alex Ross made his sequel in JSA, Thy Kingdom Come. And I gotta say, another book that I'm not super crazy about. I think most people read this first. I read The World's Finest stuff first. And this just seemed like a less good version of that. But this predates it by like 20 years. Honestly, I love Kingdom Come. I'll read anything in that world. I hope we get a Kingdom Come Omnibus someday. Or maybe a Kingdom Come DC's Finest collection. I'm going to try to finish it. But I have to say that of the sequels I've read of Kingdom Come, it is my least favorite. Now something that I absolutely loved is Batman The One Bad Day box set. Now I said I wasn't going to buy this box set. Said I didn't need it. And what did I do? I bought the Riddler One Bad Day. I said, this is all I need. It's Tom King. It's Mitch. And you open it up, and in the first couple pages, the Riddler is getting spanked as a young schoolboy by his father. And it's just everything I wanted, you know? And then the story progresses. And it's, what if the Riddler stopped being crazy? What if the Riddler stopped treating it like a game? The Riddler is the smartest villain Batman has. But the only reason he gets caught is because he toys with his prey. But what if he just doesn't? What if he doesn't leave riddles at his crimes? What if he doesn't play by Batman's rules? What would Batman do? And oh my god, it is an amazing story. And I loved it. And I instantly bought the whole box set. And I can't wait to dive into them. If you want to watch an awesome review of this box set, you can watch friend of the channel's Dom from the Comic Book Report overview of them here. And I will leave you with that. Now we move on to some compendiums. Some of them spelled correctly, some of them not spelled correctly. Now, I've been diving more and learning more about America's best comics, and all of the comics are phenomenal. And I actually read Tom Strong many years ago, but I never owned it. I read it digitally. And it's almost like if Alan Moore wrote his own version of the Fantastic Four. He's basically a hybrid between Mr. Incredible and Dr. Fantastic, and I love it. There's a talking gorilla. It's just a beautiful world, And I'm surprised we never got absolutes. Now, am I happy we never got absolutes? Yes, because they would have come out a decade ago and be long out of print and be another thing holding my wallet down. But the compendium is fun. I would love to get the deluxes someday or an Omni, but I'm just happy to have this content in an affordable way. Now we move on to the Kyle Rayner compendium. And DC, you spelled compendium wrong. Now, here's what I'm going to say. Kyle Rayner is not my favorite Green Lantern. He's my third favorite Green Lantern, fourth favorite Green Lantern. You know, there's a lot of Green Lanterns. I've never read any of this stuff, but I'm trying to support DC's compendium line, no matter how they spell it more, because I've never been one of those guys. You know, there's a duality to Jake. There's one side of me that says every book should be an absolute, and another side of me that says just put it out in any content, make it accessible to everybody. It's okay if it's paperback, and I'm happy that we're getting the content. Moving on from that, we have World's Finest, Volumes 2 and 3. Absolutely love 2. Number 3 was like kind of filler. So number 2 is incredible. What happens is there's this boy on a dimension that is ending, and he's put on a rocket ship, and it really parallels Superman on Krypton. And he goes through a dimension, and he ends up in our DC universe, or the Mark Waid universe. And when he goes to this universe, now he has powers, electric powers, and Superman takes him on as his protege, Kid Thunder, just like I'm Kid Omnidog or Kid Near Mint, or maybe Kid Jim Mint someday. You know, we don't know. And it's awesome. But the problem with Kid Thunder is that he's vengeful and he's arrogant and he has a dark side. And what I love is the twist at the end of who Kid Thunder grows up to be will shock you, and it's amazing. Volume 3 of World's Finest is still really good. It's about like an Amazo robot uprising, and, you know, it was good, but I was just clamoring to get back to the stuff with Kid Thunder, and luckily, what I will say is I read him digitally on the DC Universe app, and I got all caught up, and they go back after will be volume 4. We'll carry on the Kid Thunder stuff, and it's just Dan Mora on art, Mark Waid writing, and it's just peak DC. Now, another book I fell in love with was Human Target. So Tom King's one of my favorite writers, and I had heard how good the art was on Human Target. I had heard how good the story was, but the thing holding me back was like, I didn't want to buy 2 standard size hardcovers and then a deluxe gets announced, or an absolute, or an, you know. And you know what? I'm voting with my dollar. I will take the sacrifice of the standard size hardcover to help you all get a deluxe edition. And you know, I'll buy the deluxe edition too. So Human Target is about Christopher Chance, and his whole thing is you pay him to be a decoy of you. So Lex Luthor pays him. He pretends to give a speech as if he's Lex Luthor, and he gets poisoned, and he only has a week to live. And he has to investigate who wanted to kill Lex Luthor. And let's be honest, a lot of people want to kill Lex Luthor. So it's an amazing detective story, an amazing mystery. It's a deep, rich character study on the Justice League International. And I had just read the first Omni of JLI, so I got to know the characters, and I got a much deeper experience from it because I had read JLI. So Human Target, phenomenal. I bought a Human Target t-shirt. That's how much I loved it. And the art is just mind-blowing. And that is going to bring this video to a close, because these are all the DC books I got. Well, I mean, I got an absolute or two. I don't know if you guys would be interested in seeing it. Should I show off the absolutes that I got? Okay, we'll go to the absolute section. What you are all waiting for, the absolute section. Now, a lot of you know my goal, my mission, is to someday own every absolute edition. It's just a goal, because like when I was first starting out in collected editions, I always wanted an absolute edition, but I could never afford it. And I finally saved and saved and saved and bought my first one, All-Star Superman, and I was hooked. And now I'm to a place where I'm down to, I think it's 7 absolutes I don't own. And this is probably the most sizable jump I've ever made. So here's what I'm going to say. A lot of these are out of print. So what I want to do is, if it is out of print, I want to tell you, if I can, another format that it exists in. That way you can read these awesome stories. Because at the end of the day, you don't need to read a story in an absolute. but it's pretty fun. First, we have Batman and Robin, Batman Reborn. Now, I loved this book, and I always wanted it. And yes, you can collect all 3 Grant Morrison Omnis and get all of the Grant Morrison goodies, and that's a fantastic way. That might even be a better way to collect it because it has more. But I wanted this. I wanted it even more after they announced a Batman and Son Absolute coming out later this year. Make sure to grab it from Organic Price Books. Save $2 with the code Braveboys. But Batman and Robin, Batman Reborn, is Dick Grayson, Nightwing as Batman, and you have Damian as Robin, and it is this juxtaposition of the regular vibe of Batman and Robin, a juxtaposition of the relationship. So now you have kind of like a jokester, goofy, like Batman that's having fun, and it's like people are like terrified. They're like, why is Batman smiling? And Robin is like the no nonsense, you know, kid, and it's awesome. Next up, we have Sinestro Corpse War. Now, my friend Chris pointed out to me there was a couple Tales of issues that if they had thrown in would have made it the perfect absolute. Sadly, they didn't. So what I will say, the best way to read those is in the 3 Jeff Johns Omnibus, and that's a great way to do it. Now, moving on from there, we have Absolute Dark Knight. Now, this was a book I always fought against, but it was a gift from my dear friends at Organic Price Books, and I will do an overview soon on their channel, and then I'll go back in time and edit this and, you know, put a little tag for there. But it has Dark Knight Returns, which is the pinnacle of Batman, the best Frank Miller on Batman in my mind, and something that revitalized not just Batman, but comics in general. It also has Strikes Again, which the less said about that, the better. We'll do a video on that in the future. But I am so happy to finally own this. Moving on from that is another one that I fought against and said I was never going to own. Identity Crisis. Is it a crisis? Is it not a crisis? It has crisis in the name. And it is a story that I think goes a little too far. Some people love it. Other people hate it. And did I need it in the Absolute Edition? No. But the other day I was scrolling through eBay and I saw one ending in 5 minutes with 0 bids going for 20 bucks. And I was like, well, what if I put 25 in? It was a seal. It's sealed. It's a sealed copy. And I got it for 25 bucks. If you do want to read Identity Crisis, I would wait for the deluxe that's coming out later this year. Moving on from that is Promethea. Now, I have the deluxe editions of Promethea, and to be completely honest, it doesn't do it justice. Now, we were teased with an Omnibus announcement. It was called the Immateria Collection, and the rumor was they were going to print it in a different way because they're all double-page spreads, and it's gorgeous, and it is phenomenal. And the J.H. Williams III art, which I fell in love with on Overture, is in awesome display. And sadly, these have never been reprinted. Volume 3, you can snag on Amazon for like 50 bucks. But I will say, I have secured a Volume 1, and I am in a bidding war for Volume 2. So Promethea, that'll be my, I guess that's my current whale, my next pride and joy. I'm going to put up some art from Promethea. Promethea is kind of like a love letter in my mind, how I would describe it, as like Wonder Woman meets Sandman. It's all about imagination and stories and heroes and ideas and imagination, and it's gorgeous. Now we have Kevin Smith's Green Arrow. Haven't read this, but I did watch a Comic Pop episode on it, so I am familiar with the story. I'm excited to read it, and what's cool is I've gone to see Fat Man Beyond live at the Cantina in LA, and they do a lot of signings there, so I would love to go see him and Mark Bernardin again and get this absolute signed, so I can't wait for that. I would love to do that again. Then we move on to Superman for Tomorrow. This was the only Superman absolute I didn't own. I heard it's Jim Lee art. I heard the story leaves a little less to be desired, but I'm excited to own it. Moving on from then, we go back to Grant Morrison Batman with Batman Incorporated. Here's the honest truth. Batman Incorporated is my least favorite part of Grant Morrison Batman. I think the whole concept is kind of silly, but I want to have every absolute, and the art is phenomenal, and it is a great way to read it. Now, continuing on the theme of snagging volume 3s of 3 set out-of-print absolutes from America's Best Comics, we have League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, The Black Dossier. This is what you want an absolute for. It is all prose and 3D orgies. Oh yeah, it's got 3D glasses, and the 3D glasses have like a third eye on there, super occulty. You cannot read this book without volumes 1 and 2. It makes no sense. It's like recipes and maps and books that are sideways or upside down, flipping through it, it makes less than no sense. I knew less skimming through those pages than before I owned it. Now we have Transmetropolitan. I will say that if Warren Ellis books are not something that you want to collect, I respect that, and that's completely fine. I will say that I did read Planetary and fall in love with it. Authority wasn't my favorite, but I've heard amazing things about Transmetropolitan, and I am excited. They just announced a reprint of Volume 1. There's a couple of copies of Volume 2 available on the different sites, like Organic Price Books or Amazon. But I will say that get them while they're in stock, because with DC, why are they going 1, 2, 1? I don't know. But we need a Volume 3. It's not in print, and I'm not going to pay over cover for it. Moving on was my first purchase from Hamilton Books. I don't know much about Hamilton Books, but it had All-Star Batman and Robin, The Boy Wonder, which is a abysmal written story with phenomenal art. This is just Jim Lee going full hog, the best art you've ever seen and the worst writing you've ever seen. Batman says words you should never say. He makes Robin hunt rats and eat rats after his parents die. He paints a room yellow and gives Green Lantern a glass of lemonade. It is bonkers. And if you are going to read it, you should read it in the absolute, because the Jim Lee art is phenomenal. Then we move on to Wonder Woman, Gods and Mortals. So I recently did the DC Evergreen Omnibus stream on Near Mint Conditions channel, and I said I really liked the Gail Simone Wonder Woman Omnibus. That was my first Wonder Woman book, and everybody came for me. All of them came for me and said, what you need to read is George Perez's Wonder Woman. Now, what's cool about this is he wrote and did the art for a really long run. Some of the Omnis are out of print, so my friend suggested, why don't you buy the Absolute, because you know you're going to buy it anyways. Start with the Absolute, and if you like it and you fall in love with it, like we know you are, then you can buy the Omnis when they come back into print, and that's what I'm excited to do. I want to read more Wonder Woman. I don't know why it took me so long to start collecting her, but I know I'm going to love it. And this Absolute is gorgeous. It's gold and reflective and shiny. Now we move on to Blackest Night. Now, did I need Blackest Night as an Absolute edition? Well, I own Jeff Johns' Green Lantern Omnibus 2, which has Blackest Night. I own Green Lantern Corps by Tomasi Omnibus, which contains Blackest Night. And I own the Blackest Night Omnibus. So, yes, should you go out and seek an out-of-print copy of this book? Heck no. And don't pay. Dude, someone on Reddit was like, you spent hundreds on that Blackest Night. And I said, I got it for well below cover. And they didn't believe me. I literally had to post a screenshot of what I spent on this book. It was far below cover. And yes, it completes my Green Lantern Absolutes. And it completes my DC event Absolutes. So I am very happy to own it. But you don't need to get the Absolute. Now, if you want to because you love it and you can get a good deal for it, go for it. It's an amazing book, incredible art, and I can't recommend it enough. And that brings us to our final book, which I'm actually reading right now, and that is Alan Moore's Top 10. Watchmen often gets described as Alan Moore's critique of the superhero genre. Top 10, and I think Tom Strong, is Alan Moore proving that he loves superheroes and he loves the world that they can be in and the world that you can create. And Top 10 tells the story of a world where there are so many superheroes, they're all corralled to one city and forced to live like regular people. Now, if everybody's a superhero in your town, is anyone really a superhero? And that's the question it answers. So if you're a speedster, you're a delivery man. If you're a precog, there's certain jobs you can't work because it'd be unethical to know the future. And it follows the story of the police officers that keep the peace. And it is like that classic gritty cop drama where there's the plucky young new recruit and she's partnered with Stax, who's like the grizzled, like old guy who like doesn't want, he's like, I work alone. And it's wild. The police captain, he's a half dog, half human. There's like invisible ghost that's going around groping people. It is wild. It is bonkers. It is kooky. And it is Alan Moore level dense. Everyone loves this book. The Absolute is long out of print. I got an insane deal on it. I paid cover plus shipping. But do you need the absolute? Again, if you want to read this story because it's amazing, DC just put out a compendium. And as you know, I love my compendiums. And the compendium has more than what's in the absolute. So if you want to read all of top 10, that whole world, in a super affordable, easy way, the compendium is the way to do it. Guys, thank you so much for supporting our channel. Let's jump into our final thoughts. And that's gonna bring this video to a close. I gotta say, to those of you that skipped ahead to the ending to see the whole haul without watching the video, you're out of luck this time. This haul was too big to have the books face the camera. But I want to say thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for being the best brave boys and brave girls in the brave world. I want to remind you we have a Discord. Currently, we are running an Organic Price Books gift card giveaway. All you got to do is join the Discord and enter to win. I want to say that I am so honored. Jordan and I are both so honored that we get to make these videos for you. And this is truly like, you guys are the best friends in the world. And thank you. I want to remind you one more time, we have our sponsor, Organic Price Books. They sent me a good portion of these books, or I bought damaged ones on their Whatnot auctions. And I want to remind you that if you do want to support the channel, you can save $2 with the code Braveboys. Or if you're buying 4 or more books, you can save 5% with the code Braveboyssit. All of you keep being amazing, keep reading, and stay brave.